We have another listener question from Autistic Rainbow 15, and they want to know what your thoughts are about applied behavior analysis or ABA therapy.
Well, there's a lot of old-fashioned ABA therapy that was really terrible, and they just drove people into sensory overload. Now, the thing is, some of the modern ABA, where they're now incorporating sensory stuff into it, there's some good programs for getting language started. The other thing that's a problem with some of the more rigid people in ABA is they don't know when to phase it out. I had some ABA type things used on me, but I was a little kid and it was used to get language started. And then once the language got going, then we just did 50s upbringing, where everybody sat at the table, and if I put my finger in my drink, mother would say, use the spoon. She would just give the instruction. I call that teachable moment. No, but there's some old rigid stuff that was really, really terrible. And there's also stuff that's just stupid, where you've got a fully verbal person and you're still doing ABA. I don't know, that's just stupid.
Yeah, well, ABA in and of itself is just the science of learning.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
And where there was a problem is that there were some people in ABA that didn't believe sensory problems existed, and they were driving people into sensory overload, which is going to be really painful. Good teachers don't do that.
Yeah, and it's caused a lot of trauma for people now who are adults who had
Well,
gone through
yes,
it.
and that was
Yeah.
terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
Hmm.
And now, people are recognizing the sensory. I was very happy to see a journal article where there'd been a big meta-analysis of a bunch of studies and saying that the sensory integration is an evidence-based treatment.
Mm.
And finally acknowledging sensory problems are real. And when I did my book, Thinking in Pictures, 25 years ago, I have a whole chapter in there where I found, the reports, people on the spectrum had written reports. Sensory is real. And there's now research done with brain scans that shows that loud noise sets off a big network in the brain, and the fear center in the brain's lighting up like fireworks.
Hmm.
That doesn't happen in most people. So the fear circuits are getting turned on by sensory stuff. No, this might be my top research priority is therapy for sensory issues, because they really can restrict life.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm a behavior analyst, I'm a BCBA, and I've seen a lot of success with little kids and
Yes.
even school aged kids who are talking. We use ABA to help teach them social skills, even. Just using the principles of learning and reinforcement to try and increase behaviors that we
Well,
want to
if
see more
something's
of.
working, the thing I always ask parents, I want to make sure little ones, 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, are getting enough hours of one-on-ones with a teacher. That's that, and I'll tell them they need to up that if they don't have enough. But they'll have that about this therapy, that therapy. I mean, the thing I have observed is good teachers just know how to do it. And I'll ask parents, is your child improving? Are you getting more speech, more skills, more turn taking? My speech teacher did lots and lots of turn taking games with me. So I would learn how to wait and learn impulse control, learn how to wait and take a turn.
Yeah, and um, I've heard you talk about the fact that growing up in the time that you did, in the community that you did, um, everyone was a teacher for you.
That's the way it was with all the children in the neighborhood. This is just the way it was. And then when kids got to be 7 years old, you'd put on your Sunday best clothes and be little caterers and greeters at your parents' parties.
Hmm.
Just taught social skills. I'd go over the next door neighbor's house, and if I stirred my drink with my finger over at the Wood's house, Mrs. Wood would correct me. And she was Mrs. Wood. Wasn't allowed to use her first name. But you see, grown-ups corrected kids no matter where they were. Like I touched too much stuff in the store, the salespeople would say, don't touch it unless you're going to buy it.
Hmm.
No, they would give the instruction. That was 50s upbringing in our neighborhood. You see, and that's another reason why Granddaddy ended up getting a job. And most of the grandfathers I talked to would have been the Asperger type, where there was no obvious speech delay. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them would have been.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you think those styles of teaching could be applied now?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, we had sit down meals. And these are perfect places to teach social skills. I had to learn how to take turns. I could tell about my day in school, and then my sister had to tell about her day in school. Mother would tell about what she did, and my father would talk about what he did. And you take turns in conversation. That's standard stuff for the 50s.
What about the community part with everyone being on the same page? Like, how can people who live in big cities practice that?
Well, you can still might practice it in one little part of the big cities. One thing, my family lives in New York, so of course I'm not going home for Christmas this year because of COVID. But New York has a whole lot of little villages. Just, you kind of get a community right there on a certain block. Lots of times, you can create it within that community.
Mm-hmm.
But the other big problem is so many kids are getting addicted to video games. I was horrified when I found out that 20% or 30% of the kids had never made a paper airplane. That's ridiculous.
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.